What was the evidence that Grow KU had to just throw the to allow the elections commissions to make that decision to disqualify him? What solid evidence did they have?
And this is based on what I know. I wasn't actually at the hearing. I just know kind of the fallout afterwards. So Grow KU might be able to answer more easily. But initially, this violation was brought forward, and there was a contention because Jayhawkers had people sign a document saying they actually paid for their Chipotle. It wasn't something that Jayhawkers provided. More evidence was requested because Grow KU was contesting that, and apparently they did find students that were at that event that said, no, this was actually provided to us free of charge, and that signature on a lot of those forms were coerced. And apparently within that hearing and that evidentiary process with the Elections Commission, they ruled that it was significant enough evidence to find them in violation of the rules and regulations.
So did all they have was a documentation that students signed? They didn't have receipts or anything to back them up?
I don't think receipts have been brought in from each individual saying, I purchased this burrito. I can't say that a receipt has been shown that says $600 or $700 worth of Chipotle was bought. Grow KU or Jayhawkers might be able to respond to that, but as of right now, I don't think any of that documentation has been provided. It's based on the advertising of that event and then students at that event that aren't involved with Student Senate, what they're saying happened at the event.
You just said, I don't know if that was the real factor or anything, but you said $600 to $700 worth of Chipotle was bought. Do you actually know what the actual amount was that they were accused of spending?
I have heard no specific amount because it's roughly 60 students that were there. And I think the figure that's been thrown is based on, a burrito at Chipotle is $6 or $7 roughly. So, kind of taking that, I've heard anywhere from $600 to $800. But I don't think any actual ruling has been made on what the specific amount would be.
Marcus, why did the election commission say to have a 5-day wait after the appeals? Why is there a 5-day wait?
It's very critically important, and I think I've touched on this already, that each person that's a part of this process has the ability to make that counter argument, to bring information, to appeal. Rushing the announcement with something as major as the ruling that was this week and rushing the announcement might tamper the way that the due process is affecting each of these coalitions. I think the 5 days is pretty regular in terms of appeals. If you get a parking ticket, there's a window of opportunity for you to appeal that, and it kind of slows the entire process down. It's not automatic because we want to make sure that everything is done correctly, efficiently, and with everyone who can provide any sort of information to come to the best conclusion to resolve this issue for everyone in the best way that supports the student body. It has to be done, and so the 5 days allow for some of those time-specific requirements to get this thing finished and solved.
Mackenzie Oman, the presidential candidate for Jayhawkers, told me that they would appeal this if they lost. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, this is kind of a what do I think sort of question, and to be candid, I think if you have an appeal, it shouldn't matter whether you win or lose or any of the situation. If you think you have a good reason to appeal, you should file that appeal. And regardless of the results of the election, I think that move would be the one that I would make. I would, if I saw an issue with the way the ruling was done, and that would be open to that person's interpretation, I would file that regardless of the results. I don't think it's a situation where, are they not going to file if they win? Is that the mentality that is showing? That's a move that they've decided on, and that's their choice. I probably would have done it a little differently.
What do you guys expect to see tonight at the appeal?
Just basically each side presenting their case. It'll be interesting to see if the court can make a decision by 11. I think having the injunction go till Monday night gives them a little wiggle room to maybe deliberate this over a few days. But it's going to be interesting to see, what Jayhawkers brings to the table and kind of the justifications that the Elections Commission Chair, Jake Rapp, kind of have for the decision that they made and just how the court kind of takes that. We rarely use the Court of Appeals in the Student Senate. It's usually every spring around this time. This week they've heard 3 cases. This will be their 4th. But this is the first time they've met this year, so we really haven't been able to get a good idea of how this court operates. 3 of the 4 members are brand new this year, So it's going to be interesting to kind of see their dynamic and how they kind of set up, how people approach them in the future.
Marcus, your thoughts?
I think we will see very strong argumentation from the Jayhawkers. You know, you have to feel for 100-person strong, however large, you know, you look at least a total slate of persons who, you know, might not be in the room, who might not have, you know, had their hand involved in Burrito Gate, all of these students that have worked very hard to represent their constituents who might not be in the know with some of these things. You know, my heart kind of goes out to everyone who's had, you know, all of this momentum building to the final vote and then kind of had the rug pulled out from underneath them. I think there will be a lot of emotion, I would expect a lot of people will show up. I know this has been a talk of the campus for the last few days. I would imagine that, you know, we're breaking some sort of Twitter record. I think Burrito Gate was trending, you know, kind of locally, and which is probably you know, you don't want to be in the media for something like Burrito Gate, but this allows for Student Senate and all the coalitions and the Court of Appeals to have this conversation, and as long as the entire process is done in a transparent manner so that all of this energy and all of the perspectives of all of these students can tune in to something like this and get their answers to so many of these questions. I think that's the thing that we're going to see tonight. There's a lot of students that feel, whether misinformed, surprised, taken advantage of, whatever it might be. There's a lot of emotions going into this thing. Hundreds of people are involved, and that will kind of culminate this evening.
What changes do you guys expect to see after all this? Do you think there could be a raise in the spending cap? Do you think the elections commissions are going to be harder on coalitions or future candidates? What do you guys think? What do you expect to change after this?
I would kind of say immediately to that point, if in the year that you set a spending cap that's, you know, voted on by the entire legislative body, members of both coalitions at that time, they certainly hadn't announced, but you could kind of see the divide in the room. With so many people that had voted and participated in writing those rules, I think it would be a real shame if, you know, that rule was changed because it was broken in its first year. If it was broken, if it wasn't broken, regardless. You're kind of going down that rabbit hole of, you know, seeing into the future, the crystal ball, which, you know, you can never really predict what's going to happen. But I think it would be a poor representation of our legislative process if in the year that the rules were written, with coalitions on both sides arguing and supporting and voting to ratify those amendments, if in that year that the rules are changed because one team may or may be not broke it, I think that would be problematic.
As the primary author, I'd like them to not change because I think we've put into place a few rules that have really kind of cut down on, you know, how hard senators come at, you know, the regular student during the campaign process, and have kind of actually clamped down on a lot of the corruption. You know, this is actually a pretty tame infraction for most of our elections in the past. So I'd like to see a lot of these rules stay. The rule that they've violated, and then also the rule that you're automatically off the ballot as a coalition if you go over the cap, they've been termed death penalties at this point. And my hope would be that they stay in not because people feel that, you know, just because it's been broken, we should get rid of it. I think it shows that, you know, it keeps people in line and makes sure that the process is transparent.
And the goal of this rule, this financial cap, one of the things that we worked on, one of the things that we ran on last spring, was to make the entire Student Senate organization more accessible to students, individuals, persons who, you know, might not be able to spend the thousands of dollars to get their name on that ticket. It should be about ideas, it should be about debate, and cross-pollinating all of the different perspectives from across the student body into a more effective representative model. I don't think you need more than $1,000 to do that. I think we've seen very effective ways of reaching out to the student body, whether it's new websites, Twitter, Instagram, using Snapchat in creative ways. I think there's a creativity that comes from having these financial caps. And I think we really worked to make Student Senate more accessible. You don't have to be a freshman working your way up through a coalition system for 3 years just to have the opportunity to run to be student body president at the University of Kansas anymore. Anyone can do it. You don't need to spend the money. It's now more about ideas and about the way that you can best represent persons in terms of scope, in terms of breadth, in terms of diversity of what our campus needs in the office. It shouldn't be about, you know, how many materials you can purchase to convince someone that your idea is better.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Are you guys going to be there tonight?
I will be.
You will be. What about you?
I think it probably will be very close by.
Okay, well, thank you guys for your insight on everything. Marcus Tetweiler, KU Student Body President, and Tyler Childress, Student Senate Chief of Staff. We'll be back shortly with Kevin Hundelt, Crimson and True's presidential candidate. Please stay with us.